Don't try this at home. Tribex.
On top of the morning, on top of the wave, on top of the team, on top of the days, on top of my purpose. I create. Y'all wanna copy, but we're not the same.
Alright, so like you saw in the intro, this is the Tribex Tripod, which is a collaboration between Smallrig and Potato Jet. And this has probably been one of the most hyped tripods in the past year or so. And it's all because of the fast deployment, which is controlled by this clutch. Now, Gene or Potato Jet is a big fan of motorcycles, so he designed this tripod to kind of mimic like the clutch of a motorcycle. I've done a couple shoots with this, and most recently a 14-hour wedding, so I have put a bit of time into it. And while this isn't going to be a long-term review, I think I have used it enough to kind of give my thoughts about it. Full disclosure, Smallrig did send me this tripod to review, but no money exchanged hands, and they don't get to see this video before it's posted. So let's start out with some few basic features about this tripod. So this is a carbon fiber tripod. The legs are made out of carbon fiber. It's actually pretty light. I can easily hold this with one hand. Now, this isn't a travel tripod. I don't think this is something where if I was just going hiking and I wanted to bring a small and light setup, I wouldn't use something like this. This is a little bit too heavy for that. But this also isn't for those heavy duty rigs. You're probably not going to be putting like a Sony Venice with like a 40-pound rig on it. This is kind of in between where you might use it for events or weddings where you do have a decent sized rig, something like this. This rig is 11 pounds and this will easily fit onto the tripod. Now this tripod right now is at its max height 155 centimeters, but if you raise the center column even more, this goes up to 168 centimeters, and you can also flip this whole thing upside down and get as low as 27 centimeters. The payload for the tripod itself is 55 pounds. If you purchase the kit that includes the head, then the payload for the head is 13.2 pounds. Now this head here takes both 501 Manfrotto plates, and if you flick this little switch over here, then it takes DJI RS Manfrotto plates. So if you want to quickly switch between using a gimbal and to the tripod, you can easily do that. Now the whole thing is controlled by this handle, and this handle you have 3 different modes. So you have 0 degrees, which is used for storage. You have 45 degrees, which you can use to carry the tripod around. And then you can push it out all the way to 90 degrees for usage. So depending on what circumstance you're using this with, you have a few different adjustments there. Now this handle works off a hydraulic system, so it is like a motorcycle clutch, and that's really what makes this tripod special, is this quick release. So like I showed you in the beginning, all you have to do is open the legs, press the clutch, and then everything opens up, super fast deployment. Now I have 2 tripods here. Normally with a standard video tripod, you would have to unlock the legs. Depending on what mechanism they use, you can pull the whole thing up, and then you would have to individually tighten each leg to make sure that locks in place. Now with the Tribex, all you have to do is open the legs, press the handle, and then it opens up. And then now it's super fast deployment, way faster than this tripod that you saw. Now this also works on uneven surfaces too. So I'm just gonna use my bag as an example, just pretend it's a rock. With uneven surfaces, you would have to kind of unlock the legs individually, kind of line them up. And then because this leg is higher, then you would have to probably lock this one first, and then tighten all the other ones. And then now you can put this on an uneven surface, but you would have to deal with making sure that each individual leg is set properly on your uneven surface. And then again with the Tribex, you just have to kind of line up the feet to make sure that it's going to land in the right place. Open it, and then now you're good to go. So you definitely can see it's way faster than something where you have to do each leg individually. Now not only is this used for fast deployment, but it's also used for leveling out. So let's say one of your legs are shorter on this tripod. You do have this head here where you can adjust the middle and kind of make sure that it's leveled here. Or you can just kind of pull the leg up, use the bubble that's built into the tripod, kind of try to level it out here. And then you can also individually level the head out. But you can see it's a lot more hassle. You'd have to deal with doing each part individually and then trying to make sure that it's leveled. With the Tribex, if it's not leveled, you can kind of just press the clutch and hold it. Use the bubble level, just kind of make sure that's in the right place. If I can find it. Right here, let go, and then now it's leveled. But you don't get the adjustment of the ball head of leveling it, where with this tripod, you can just kind of turn this head here and level adjust the head. You don't get that with this. So for the Tribex, you are leveling out the feet instead of the head. Where with this tripod, you can level out the feet and you can individually level out the head. So normal tripod will have two modes of adjustment. So if you purchase a kit that includes the head, I do think this head is pretty decent. You have a locking here for the tilt. You can adjust the damping so you can make it super loose, or you can tighten it and make it super stiff. You also have a tilt adjustment so you can unlock it here. Right now this is at max dampness, so you can see it's super hard to turn. You can also loosen up the dampness all the way, and that makes it spin freely pretty much. You also have the counterbalance. So I'm gonna put this rig here, and really quickly, this rig, like I mentioned, it takes 501 Manfrotto as well as the RS. It's also a drop-in, so instead of having to slide your plate in, you can just drop it in, which is super easy. I actually prefer that a lot. So I measured the weight of this rig. This is 11 pounds. Right now, this is at 0 counterbalance. So you can see right now, it just freely falls basically. If I increase it all the way to 3 counterbalance, it does hold this rig. I mean, I'd say that's pretty good. And this is probably around the size of like rigs that you're gonna be using with this. Again, you're not gonna be putting like a Sony Venice or something. You probably could. I obviously don't have one to test, but for 11-pound rig, like, I mean, I have no problems with this. And I was using this exact rig for my wedding that I recently shot, and it was perfectly fine. And then for drop-ins, I like it because you just loosen it, press the button, comes right up. I also mentioned you can flip this whole thing upside down, so you can just unlock the center column. At the bottom here, there's a little pin. You just press onto the pin, it pulls out this little piece. And then now you can take out the whole center column. You can flip it upside down, just shove it back through the hole, put this pin back in, tighten it. And now the head is upside down, so if you want to get some really low shots, you can do that, just mount the camera upside down. There's a few things I've done to this tripod which makes it like a nice to have. It's definitely not something where it's a deal breaker that would make you choose this over something else. But for things like this, the center column, the pin, when you pull it out, it actually has an Allen key on the top. So if you need to, you can just kind of tighten any screws that might be loose. On the inside of this head here, there's a little flat head that they've stuck in. So it just keeps it in there in case you need to tighten like a tripod plate or something. Super nice that they keep one right there. Doesn't get in the way. They also have these two little holes where the Manfrotto plate would go, and this you can use to keep screws. So maybe you just want to keep some backups in case you forget your screws on the Manfrotto plate, or you just need a spare for some reason. It's really nice that they have it there just for spares. This bag is also super nice. You have some very nice textures on the handles. For these video tripod bags, normally you would open it from the middle and you would have to shove your tripod in there. What I actually like is you can open it from the top. So when you need to pack up your tripod, you literally just shove it back into the bag this way, and you don't have to like lay the whole thing on the ground and fiddle with shoving the whole thing in there. This just closes nice and easy. And then on the other side of it, you have a little handle. Super nice. And then this whole thing does collapse to a pretty good size. You can see with the other tripod I was using, this is quite a bit shorter. And this is definitely lighter. This one is actually pretty heavy. You have more rods, which I think obviously adds to the weight. This might be a little bit more durable or hold more weight because you have more rods. That I'm not really sure. But I mean, you saw this. I was able to literally hang off of the tripod, and there's a bunch of videos where G was also hanging off of this. So I do think that this is very strong, and it's super nice that it's small. Again, it's not going to be like a travel tripod, but I do think it's a very nice in between. Now, I really like this tripod, but there definitely are some downsides to it, and I do want to mention that. So the first thing is, it is kind of annoying to put back in. Now, I mentioned that it's very fast deployment, which you saw, it is very fast, but putting it back in is kind of weird. So if I press the handle and I push the tripod down, it like kind of goes in, but then you kind of have to like wiggle the legs off to each side before it goes all the way in. So what I've been doing is instead I kind of fold the legs back into the middle. This way you can just push and drop the whole thing in, which works if you're trying to pack up. But let's say I only want to lower it maybe like another feet. I do have to push the handle and kind of wiggle it until it gets to a feet lower. and then it would stay. I don't really know the engineering of why it is like that. If you know, let me know in the comments. But that is one of the little gripes I found about it. It's not a deal breaker for me. I still think that the speed is well worth it, and it's not that much slower. It just kind of is a little bit more annoying to have to get used to like turning it to the side instead of just pushing it straight down. Now another thing with this clutch is because it is a hydraulic system, it does take a little time for it to kind of expand and hold its position. So let's say right now this is at its max length. I put it on the ground, I'm just kind of like hovering it. If I let go, you can see it drops a bit because it does take a little bit of time for the hydraulics to kick in. So again, sometimes if I'm using it, I kind of like, oh, I leveled it out. I let go too fast. You can see that it falls and it like takes a bit of time. Obviously this is like a very dramatic reenactment. I would never just kind of like let go and like walk away that instantly. But when you're kind of leveling out your camera, you have to like watch the bubble level, make sure it's leveled, and then you kind of just hold it still. You let go, wait a second for the hydraulics to kick in, and then you can let go, and then the tripod will stay there. So definitely something to keep in mind. It does take a little bit of time to get used to, but after using it for that whole day for the wedding, I did get used to it. You just kind of have to hold it, let go, and then it stays where you want it to. So I was editing this video and I forgot to mention, it doesn't seem to work that well in the cold because it is a hydraulic system. I think I first saw this on Chris Brockhurst, he had it in one of his videos. Now I haven't personally experienced this because I haven't owned it and used it in the winter, but it does seem to make sense, and if you are planning to use this in the winter, this is definitely something that you're going to want to do more research on. Now I do wish that this got a little bit taller. So at its max height, this does go up to 168 centimeters. And that's with the center column all the way up. It does depend on what you're shooting. For events and specifically for things like the wedding that I shot, sometimes you do want to just get a little bit higher just to get above people. I think for most people this will be high enough, but it does depend on what you're shooting. For reference, this tripod can go up here. Obviously, locking the legs now is like very weird because it's so tall. Kind of have to hold this whole thing up. But yeah, you can see like it's way taller. And this will probably be something I would need for weddings. Obviously this is a little bit ridiculous for like normal use, but again, sometimes you just have to get over people's heads for weddings or events, and this would do that. I found this just a little bit too short. Now the center column adjustment is actually a little bit weird. For most tripods, you just have kind of like a little dial on the side. You would turn it and you would just be able to raise up the center column. For this one, if I turn it, it actually locks. It doesn't let you turn it at all. There's like this little dial, you have to pull it out and you have to hold it out. If you let go, it just kind of closes back in. So you have to hold it out and then turn. And then that way you can raise it. And when you let go, it doesn't lock the whole thing. It just locks this dial. So you still have to make sure that you turn it and lock it in. I don't actually know why this does that. Again, if you know, let me know in the comments of why they made it this way. But it is a little bit weird. You have to pull out the dial and hold it, and then you can adjust it, and then you can tighten it back up. And then finally, this is just probably like me nitpicking, but when this is all folded up, I do kind of wish there was like a better place to hold it. You have to just kind of grab onto the legs. You don't really have any other place to put your finger under. You can maybe hold it on the underside of like where the plate would go, but you kind of just have to hold it like this. I mean, the handle does fold out, so if you want, you can maybe kind of like grab it like this, but it is a little bit more weird. For reference, this tripod, I can just kind of hook it under the leg, so it does kind of give me a little bit more of a secure grip, where for this, because it is just a single leg, there's nothing for me to hook my hand under. Again, I don't think that's something that would be like a deal breaker, but it is something that I noticed and maybe you might notice too. And that's pretty much it for this video. I think if you are in a market for kind of like a mid-tier tripod, it is definitely going to be a little bit more expensive than like some video tripods because of all the engineering and the collab that they did with this. This has been my go-to tripod whenever I need to grab a tripod, unless it's for things specifically like I mentioned, like weddings where I need to go super high, which this can't do. But overall, I've actually been really enjoying this. If you have the money to spend, I would definitely look into this. The quick adjustment and quick leveling is definitely super handy. But if you're on a budget, then I would say that all of these features, they're just nice to have. They're definitely not necessities. You can definitely get by with like a cheaper tripod. But if you do have the money, highly recommend. Hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more photo video content, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.